goodness, I almost forgot to record. Okay, so now we're recording. So to catch anybody up who is watching the recording, we are just talking about what Zoom is and how we use it at Lambda. So we use it for pretty much everything. If you have not done so already, you can download and install Zoom. They have apps for Mac, for Windows, for mobile devices as well. So it's not quite as powerful on a mobile device, but it's a nice, I like having Zoom on my phone and my tablet just as a backup. Maybe I'm stuck in traffic or running a little bit late. I can always still call into a meeting on my phone or on my device, and maybe I don't have the video on, but I can still listen and participate. So if you've got the room to do that, it's not a bad idea. With a free account, so Zoom is free to install, free to set up. With a free account, some things that you can do, you can host a meeting with up to 100 people, unlimited one-on-one meetings. There is a time limit on larger group meetings with free accounts. So you'll only be able to have group meetings up to 40 minutes long. So we've had groups in the past. You can get around this by just starting a new meeting. But every once in a while, I know some students will take it upon themselves to upgrade, but we are not going to ever ask you to upgrade. There's no need for you to get a paid account. You can do everything that you need to do on a free account. The instructors have upgraded accounts, so we can host these longer sessions, but you don't need to do that. To join Zoom meetings, so whenever there is a Zoom meeting that you have been invited to, those links will usually be posted in Slack. Every once in a while, so for example, your particular TL, they might set up Zoom meetings, recurring Zoom meetings. So I know some TLs in both, and I've done this in the past as well, might post a recurring meeting link in a channel or in a calendar event, something like that. But it's not necessary. So usually these are in Slack, sometimes calendar, sometimes other places. There are a couple of different audio options that you can choose. So I don't think I've ever even attempted to join a meeting by telephone unless I was on my phone because I wasn't at my computer. So I would recommend usually joining by computer audio, but you can join by phone if you would like. Usually a good idea, especially if you're going to present or host, you can actually go into audio settings and test out, do sound tests. If you have a new mic, for example, you can do a mic test. That's all very helpful. A few different, one control that's very, very helpful. So in this meeting right now, everybody is muted, and I have it set that everybody will stay muted. This will not be the case in every single meeting that you join. So there are going to be times where you will have the option to unmute. So some instructors will actually leave the option to unmute, and you can ask in Slack. I would recommend asking in Slack before you just unmute and start asking a question. Some instructors are okay with this. If your question is longer or something that would just be difficult to type out. But if you're muted, if you actually hold down the space bar, you will be unmuted for as long as you hold down the space bar. So it's a good way, because usually the default in meetings, especially if it's meetings with more than a couple of people, is to stay muted while you are not talking. Just because if you think about all the little things that can happen in the background, right? If you've got other people around, other people walking around, pets, kids, the wind, there's lots of things that make noise. So then if you multiply that by how many people are in the meeting, 10 people, 20 people, 50 people, it can get to be really distracting. So usually you're going to stay muted unless you're talking, and then unmute. There's also a button on the screen to unmute as well that you can just click once to unmute and click again to mute. I'm trying to think, where are settings? A couple of audio settings. So because Zoom, it won't let me show all of this while I have a Zoom open, so I took a couple of screenshots. If you open up the settings, so if you look down at the bottom of your screen where right now there's the little microphone that shows that you're muted, You can click that the little caret and open up your audio settings. A couple of things that I recommend you do. First one is mute microphone when joining a meeting, that little checkbox. I try to remember to mute participants. There's a setting that hosts can choose where all participants will come in muted, but not everybody does that. So it's a good practice just to come in muted, just in case you have the TV on in the background or something else going on, that you don't disrupt a meeting when you come in. And then you can always unmute yourself if you need to talk. And then I have that setting, press and hold the space bar to temporarily unmute. That's super useful. Yeah, and you can change between if you have different microphones, like your built-in microphone versus an external microphone. You can change between those and test those things out. Let me take a look at Slack because I know there have been a few things coming across Slack. I've done something very similar where, yeah, I've seen things, somebody's been screen sharing and I've forgotten that they've been screen sharing. And I've tried to like scroll through a document that is not on my screen. Danny, if you're limited on data, I would not recommend using your phone or data as the default way to view Zoom, but it's just a good backup. So for on mobile devices. Yeah, and so if you've got people on the road, so again, like Christiane is saying, I don't advocate Zooming and driving, texting and driving, video calls and driving, but if you are a passenger in a car on the way home, it's not a bad idea. Do you need a paid account for CodePen? My guess is no, but confirm that. I would ask that, Sarah Marie, in the web channel. Confirm with your web instructor specifically. And Darren, that 40-minute limit is when you're the host. That's correct. So because I'm the host and I have an upgraded account, we can have this meeting can go as long as we want it to. But we're going to make sure we stay within the calendar time frame. The attendance link, it's the same link from yesterday. I'll post it. I don't have it. Well, here, I can find it. Let's see. Attendance. There's the link for attendance. If you've not clicked that button today, please click the attendance button. Chris, we cannot do that during a guided project. I missed exactly when you asked that. Can you clarify what specifically you meant? Also, you can change the settings at any, if you're in the middle of a Zoom, you can go change the settings right now. I just can't show, like if I open my settings, it just doesn't show them on the screen for you. Yeah, so that's the reason I'm showing screenshots. Yeah. But if you want to actually open up your settings right now and take a look at things, you are more than welcome to. So that's one piece of Zoom is the audio. You've got lots of audio controls. Similarly, there's also the video part of Zoom. So again, on that bottom, if you look at, go back to the screenshot for a second. So at the bottom left, there's the microphone that you can use to mute and unmute or open up audio settings. Right next to that is your video control. So you can either turn off and on video. So if you need to, step away from the screen real quick, go attend to something, get up for a moment, whatever it might be, you can turn off your video really quickly right there. Or that caret will allow you to open up video settings. However, disclaimer, when it comes to video, your video should be on during class time. The expectation is that your video is on. Again, we understand that you might need to get up for a couple of minutes, go answer the door. Your baby just got home, you need a couple of minutes to eat dinner. That's fine. We want you to have the energy to think and participate in class, but video should be on for the vast majority of the time. Invites, if you look at, can we see it? So there's another bar. If you look down at that bottom menu bar in the screenshot, there's another option, invite. I didn't grab a screenshot of this, but that invite is what you would click on if you were ever hosting a meeting and you wanted to get the link to share with other people. you would get that from that invite button. So not going to be something you do too often, but good to know where that is in case you need it. And then again, this is not going to be something people here use a lot, but if you ever find yourself hosting a meeting and you want to see, hey, are all the people that I invited, are they here yet? You can actually take a look at manage participants and see exactly how many people are here, who exactly is here, do they have their camera on or off, do they have their microphone on or off. If you're the host, you can even force them to you can, well, not force, you can mute them if needed, or give them permission to unmute if needed as well. So that's how you can actually control some of your participants if you are the host of a meeting. And then this is something that is really important that you probably will use very soon, is screen sharing. So when you share, let me actually, hold on, I'm gonna stop my share. I just wanna grab a screenshot of what that menu looks like and talk about it real quick. Okay. And I'll put that there and go back and share my desktop again. Okay. So if we look at, so this is what comes up when you click on share. You can share both your entire desktop, which is what I usually do in guided projects, but some instructors might share individual windows. So if you're, for example, if you're doing a demo or a presentation or something like that, I would say that it's actually might be easier to just share an individual window. So you can see here's, I could share just this one Chrome window, just Slack, something like that. There's also an option, the other option that I use is that whiteboard. So if you ever just want to diagram something out, brainstorm, you can share a blank white screen. And then Zoom has some annotation controls where you can draw and things on that screen. All right, so screen share is something to take a look at. All right, chat. The Zoom chat is virtually never used with Lambda. For the most part, as you all have been participating and seen, we use Slack to kind of keep up with those conversations that happen during guided projects. Most instructors will actually have the Zoom chat turned off completely. So if you're looking for it and wondering where is Zoom chat, I don't even see it, that's because I turned it off. We want to keep the chat in Slack. Your instructors are not looking at that Zoom chat. So if you ask a question there, it's probably going to go unanswered. It is a feature. There are other people that use it, but we do not. And then finally, when the meeting is over, if you are a participant, you will have the option to leave a meeting. So I can look over here down at that, at the bottom, that bottom menu bar. For me, it says end meeting because I'm the host. Only the host has the power to end meetings. So again, just a few reminders when it comes to Zoom. Watch the noise. Remember, even little things that don't sound that loud to you can get picked up and sound really loud on a microphone. Even if you're just, for example, typing and taking notes, if your internal microphone is your default, that typing actually comes out really loud. So this is, again, why you want to make sure that you are muted unless speaking. Be really mindful of that. Be camera ready. So you can always, if you actually, because remember the expectation is to have your camera on. So if you're at your computer ready to go, it's not a bad idea to turn Zoom on. You can actually, in the video preferences, if you open the video preferences, you'll actually see a preview of what your camera will show. So if you need to adjust and make sure it's not pointed at the ceiling is not helpful, you can, make those adjustments, fix your hair, do whatever you want to do. Mine is black in this screenshot just because my camera cover was on. But while the video settings are up, a couple of video settings that I want to point out as well. HD, when it comes to HD, I have it enabled because I want to share high quality video. But if you are somebody where your internet's a little spotty, your bandwidth is limited, This is a good way to potentially improve the stream that you're getting. So disabling HD might be a good option for you. All right. Mirror my video. Do this if you want to do it. Do you want to have words displayed forwards or backwards? That's all it really is. There's that handy dandy option to touch up my appearance, which part time, it's the end of the day, we're all tired. No one is gonna know or hold it against you if you check that box. And then just like you can default to always have your audio off when you enter a meeting, you could do the same thing with video. So I always think it's a good idea to have my video off when I come into a meeting, just in case maybe I'm in a rush and I didn't get to set up the cameras at a weird angle or something. That gives me a second to join the meeting and then adjust those things and then turn it on for the rest of the audience. Okay. So I definitely recommend, if you haven't done so already, there's a lot of other settings in Zoom as well. We don't have time to go over every single one. Video and audio are most important, but there's some fun things as well. Like if you can play around with the virtual background, which works either if you have a green screen, or I've found that it works if you have just a solid wall. Like it's not going to work with this wall that has texture and stuff on it, but it works reasonably well with just solid white or gray walls too. So you can play around with that, and other things as well. Let's see, be camera ready. Eating on camera. I think we mentioned this earlier in the week, so we understand that everyone here, a lot of people here are coming straight from work to Lambda. You need to eat. We don't want you to skip meals for class. We want you to, if you're just thinking about food, you're not going to be focused, and that's no good. If you're just have, a bottle of water, or you always see me with a cup of like coffee or water, that's not a big deal. But think about, okay, do I want to watch my classmate eat? Like the example here is, spaghetti or something that's really messy. If it's going to be distracting, don't eat it during class, or turn your camera off for a couple of minutes while you eat that snack, if you need to. Similarly, it is also not professional. We're going to talk more about professionalism, to be smoking, vaping, or using tobacco or alcohol products on camera in class. So we have the breaks, when everything is. So just make sure that if you do smoke or vape, that it is not in class on camera. All right. Let's see, comments. Ha ha ha, no cigars, no pipes. Not in class, right? Yeah, and so again, camera on. And why we have this expectation is just because it helps both you and whoever you're talking with be more engaged. I can tell you from an instructor standpoint, it is a whole lot. No, Cody, you cannot have scotch either during class. It is a whole lot more fun to talk to people with faces as opposed to black boxes. Black boxes they don't have any expressions that tell me, yes, I got it, or no, I'm stuck. So it really helps us if you keep your camera on. And it also helps you stay more engaged if you know that people can see you, right? So again, this benefits everybody. Please make sure that your camera is on. What was this? Oh, and this is just, if you click on advanced settings, Zoom has a whole online portal with a bunch of other advanced settings. So again, lots of settings. We can't go over all of them, but something to do if you have some time this weekend, something to do. All right, Zoom questions. Do we have any Zoom questions? Oh, we have lots of general questions. I would like to change my 5th day from the one I chose. If you want to change your 5th day, that's going to be, here, let me time box this for just a couple minutes before we move on. Okay. Go ahead and submit a ticket via front desk. There is an option that you can select there. Otherwise, if you haven't chosen your 5th day yet, I'll repost the link to that form after class with our giant list of links. So that way, if you haven't chosen yet, you can choose. How many people go on from Lambda from different states actually get the same job and work together? That's a good question. I know it's happened a few times. Like for example, I know we had a labs team about a little over a year ago that was all hired together. And so they were all in different places and they all got hired on at the same company. And we also have a few hiring partners that have hired multiple students. And so there are instances where there's a company with, 10, 15 Lambda students. But I don't have any numbers on that. So it does happen. It's definitely not uncommon. It just depends. Any tips for a beginner coder? Oh, what is the biggest tip that I have? I think biggest tip is do not be afraid to ask questions. You will have been already, or you will be in the coming days, added to a help channel for your cohort. And so in this channel, it's literally just a channel to ask questions when you are stuck. Your TLs are not mind readers. Your instructors are not mind readers. But all of us want to help you. And your classmates too. Most of your classmates, everyone here is really positive, really helpful. But we only know that you're stuck if you tell us, and we only can help you if you give us a specific question. So questions. We'll do one more. Is it possible to do more than one track, doing web dev and then doing data science after? Not really. Remember the goal, everybody came here to get a job, right? And so the different tracks are not necessarily, they're designed to help people get into different fields, get different jobs. So it really, I think the best use of your time is to pick one track that is most interesting to you, the best fit for you, and push forward with that. All right. These are not old here. Let me go back. I missed a couple of comments in Slack. Tyler, you want me to go call out people? Maybe I'll take a look at some point when you guys are not aware, and I'll make a couple notes and then come back at the end of class. I like that idea. All right, so I'm gonna wait till people are not, because if I switch now, everybody's gonna be on their best behavior. Are these old questions or just repeats? No, this is a new Slido, so these are new questions. Yeah, Nexient is one of those companies that has hired several Lambda grads. Oh, awesome. Angel, for those of you asking about 5th day, Angel reposted the form. I'll share again at the end of class, but it's there. All right. So let's go ahead and move on to the next topic. I want to talk a little bit about what have you signed up for? So, disclaimer, Lambda is challenging. Lambda is hard. However, we don't say this to scare you, to intimidate you. We don't want you to all quit and leave. However, it's really important to us that we set expectations. So if you're somebody that is used to coasting through classes, if you're somebody that's used to putting in minimal effort, I just got to check off the boxes, that's probably not going to be enough to be successful here. There's lots of different challenges you'll encounter in technical challenges and projects that you work on, interpersonal challenges, working with different teams of people you don't know, teams of different sizes, teams with different ability levels. And then the job search is hard too. Applying for development jobs is not the same as applying for jobs in retail, or maybe in some of the industries that you're used to working in. So it is perfectly normal to be frustrated at some points. And that's okay, because although everything's hard, we've got a really awesome support system here of instructors, coaches, team leads, and other students to help you. All right. And so if you put in the work If you really are, engaged in class, not just sitting in class with your camera off, kind of listening, if you're engaged, doing the assignments, really working at it, these are the students that are getting hired. These are the students that are going out there being successful in interviews. But remember, what employers are looking for in interviews is, do you have the skills? They're not just looking for, did you finish Lambda, check, you're in. You actually have to show, you have to demonstrate, and different companies do this in different ways with whiteboard challenges, take home projects, there's verbal questions, there's lots of different ways they might choose to assess this, but you have to show that I have the skills to do whatever it is you need to do. We can't do that for you. You have to actually go do it. So just keep that in mind as you're going through. And with that, if you fall behind, that's okay. That happens to a lot of people, where something doesn't click the first time. But that just means you need more reps, right? It doesn't mean you're never going to get this content. You're never going to pass that sprint. That just means, hey, you need to spend a little bit more time on that sprint. So be prepared that, hey, there might be a point where I have to go back and repeat some content, and just know that you're not the only one if that happens. And remember that the reason we do not just say, okay, you didn't pass that, but keep going anyways, right? A lot of the schools and the systems that we're used to, it might be that, okay, you fail that class or that thing, but you keep moving forward. The reason that we don't do that is because, well, if you don't pass that sprint challenge, for example, that means you're not very comfortable with all the skills that were covered, which means if you're not very comfortable, can you demonstrate that you know them to employers, right? End goal, we're always thinking about that end goal. The end goal is that job. To get that job, you've got to be able to demonstrate the skills. So we're not going to let people move forward until you can demonstrate those skills. All right. Last thing that I want to talk about before we take a break. So as part of the assignments, everybody spent some time thinking about their why, right? Your why. So what's your why, right? The clear, reflecting a little bit on your purpose, your specific reasons for why you came here. So at a really, really high level, everyone has that same goal, right? Of, okay, I want to break into this new field, switch to this new career, but exactly why you want to do that is going to vary for a lot of different people. And I think knowing what your why is really important when you get to those points where things are hard. They are frustrating. Being able to have that really clearly defined, so you can, stop, pause, breathe, and remember, okay, I'm doing this because of whatever it is, and there's more than one right answer, right? That can be really, really motivating. So hopefully everybody has had a time to think about your why, because what I want to do is actually try out one other thing in Zoom and give you a chance to share a little bit about your why. So what we are going to do, Zoom has a feature called breakout rooms. Has anybody used breakout rooms? This might be new even for some people that have used Zoom before. Okay. So maybe for everybody, nobody? Okay, we have one. I see one yes, lots of no's. Okay, so what a breakout room is it's essentially going to take this one really large Zoom session that we have, and it's going to split everyone up into smaller kind of mini Zooms. And how big those little mini rooms are depends on what the host sets. So I'm going to set things so that we have about 4 or 5 people in a room, okay? And it's just going to randomly divide everybody up. So I don't have a list or anything ahead of time. It's just going to randomly sort everyone. Yeah, there's going to be 21 different rooms. Yep. And so what I would like everyone to chat about in your rooms is kind of related to what we've talked about so far. So I have 4 questions and I'll post these on Slack. So you're gonna be in a room with 3 or 4 classmates. I would love for everybody to share where you're from. What track are you in? So data science, iOS, or web. If you're comfortable, I would love for people to share what your why is. If it feels a little bit too personal, you're not obligated to share that. But last question is, what is your dream job? So it could be a dream company or a dream role, whatever it is, kind of where do you see yourself? Where do you hope to see yourself after finishing Lambda? Okay. So I know there are a couple of people commenting about, oh, I don't have a mic right now. I would say yes. The answer is yes. Please use your mic. If you don't have one, there is, I don't know if there's a way. You might have a breakout room chat. It might be disabled because I disabled it in the larger room though. If you don't have a mic or way to communicate, you can always just DM an individual in your room and let them know, or thumbs down to just let them know. All right, so I'm gonna open up breakout rooms so everybody can chat for maybe about 5 minutes or so, meet some people. I know there's been a lot of virtual chatter, but it's nice to meet people and talk. So let's do that for a few minutes, and then after that we will take a break. So I'll post the questions. I'm gonna start the rooms right now. You have to click a button to join the room, and then I'll post a warning when we're about to come back to the larger group. All right, so everyone will be back in about 15 seconds. So if you're already back, give us just a little bit, and then we'll wrap up. Okay. I think we had just over 100 before. Okay, looks like everyone's back. All right, so I just wanted to give everyone here a chance to experience breakout rooms. So these are actually something instructors will use from time to time in guided projects. They might have a discussion question. I know I've used them in the past, with, maybe some mini challenges like, hey, see if, what kind of solution you could come up with a group. So it's a way to, even if we're in a larger group, I think it's a cool way to be able to interact with people in your class. So again, just another reason to be camera ready, have your mic and whatnot ready to go. I know that during kind of this intro week, everyone's excited and we could talk for longer, potentially, but we got to keep things moving. So yeah, so just be prepared for breakout rooms. That's what they are. Yeah, the host can, so I did send a warning. It's not super obvious when it shares though. The host can force everyone out of their breakout rooms back into the main session. And yeah, if you're somebody that's, talking with new people is a little bit nerve-wracking, yeah, that's typical. That's normal. But that's okay. Tips to avoid awkward silences. Um, I mean, you can always, I would just say asking questions. I'm trying to think if there's anything else other than asking questions. Asking questions, or if you have a question, like you can always ask and kind of volunteer to be the first one to answer. So if you've gone through all the prompts, so like for example, a good follow-up question to that discussion might have been like, hey, does anybody have any recommendations for an external camera or microphone? I don't have one. Built-ins are fine for most cases, but things like that. Like I've been using this, but curious about other recommendations. Yeah. All right. Okay, well, I think we're at a good spot to go ahead and take a break. So I'm going to share my screen again and put up a timer. So take 5 minutes, go ahead and get up, stretch, grab whatever you need. And when we come back, we will move on to values and professionalism. All right, so let's go ahead and keep on going. Um, lots of fun chat in the channel. Kevin asked if this channel stays open. Yes, this channel will continue to be open. I don't know if these channels ever get, I don't know at what point they get deleted. I want to say never. Don't hold me to that though. All right, so we got, maybe if you have a snack that you went and grabbed, maybe your camera's going to be off for a couple minutes. That's okay. But please remember to turn it back on. The other thing that I forgot to call out about breakout rooms, that I actually want to commend this group on, is it's also a way, if you think you're being sneaky and you're like, aha, I'm going to trick people into thinking I'm in class, I'm going to show up with my camera off and then just walk away. You can do that, and then you will be caught as soon as your instructor opens up breakout rooms, because if you don't click the button to join the room, then we will know. So this group, there was only one person that did not join their breakout room, which is a record. That is the best breakout room participation I have ever had. So this group is awesome. Yeah, the whole class will be in Zoom. So starting next week, this group will be split up into 3 subgroups. So you'll have everybody in web will be in one Zoom. Everybody in iOS will be in one Zoom. Everybody in data science will be in another Zoom. And yeah, Clayton, I agree. If you're in class but not really in class, at the end of the day, it's really just going to be detrimental to you, because it's going to make it harder for you. Again, to get the job, you got to get the skills. To get the skills, you got to come to class, learn, and then practice. So if you don't do all that, you're just hurting yourself at the end of the day. All right, let's talk about values and mindset. So really quickly, our objectives for this second part of class, we'll talk about the school's mission and values, the culture, what are some of the ways to participate and engage here at Lambda School, talk about how to ask for help, talk about, what are some things that you can do and some specific needs to be mindful of, financial, physical, social, emotional, etc. We'll talk a little bit about time management, study skills. Ooh, if we have time, we'll get to Polya too. Polya is very important. All right. Let's talk a little bit about Lambda's mission and values. All right. So the vision and all of this, if you ever need to refer back to it later, want to refer back to it later, you can always find it on Lambda School's website. But the vision is to unlock everyone's potential regardless of circumstance. This is something that Austin has talked, our CEO, Austin Allred, has talked to us a lot about in staff meetings. We really don't want somebody's education to be limited by their physical location. If you're not located near a school but you want to learn something, that can be a barrier. By financial obligations, whether it's debts that you have that prevent you from taking out more loans, or you need to keep working but you also want to study. We don't want these things to be barriers to our students. The mission, our mission here at Lambda School, is to be the best place in the world to launch a new career. And our core values here. So again, these are things that were written for Lambda staff, Lambda leaders, and whatnot. However, we want to show them to you so you can really understand where are we coming from. What are some of the things that we're thinking about when we make decisions and whatnot. So we really pride ourselves on being student obsessed. So really making sure that our students are the best students, and doing everything that we can to support you. So constantly improving programs, working hard to make sure that you are going to be successful. Acting like an owner. So both myself and all of the other staff here, it's really important for us to continue improving upon things, continue working on things, be open to feedback, take that feedback and do something with it, and continuously work at improving something. organizing chaos, really sweating over the details, making sure that when we put a new system in place, are trying something new with all of you, that we are creating clear accountability, documentation, results, etc., etc. Nothing is sacred. So this means that we do not believe in continuing to do things the way they have been done just for the sake of continuing to do things the way they've been done. If there's a better solution out there, if there's something that should change, then we are open to that change. Go for it. So kind of along with nothing sacred, not only are we open to change, but we're open to big change, risky change, if we have evidence that supports that this is going to help you as students. So kind of how does all this affect you in your day-to-day here at Lambda School? Keep in mind that things will change probably at some point between now and when you finish Lambda School. Something at some point will change. And the reason why things change, we're not trying to complicate things or make your life more difficult or any of that. All of those values that I just listed out, those are the motivating factors behind our changes. So we're trying to make the student experience better for you to help you reach your goal of getting a job, right? So keep that in mind. And as part of that, so when it says here on that slide, your feedback is valuable, we really do read all the feedback that you give us, and we try to act on that feedback really quickly. There are lots of schools that might process that feedback and introduce changes more slowly. We like to act quickly, and if we know something's broken, we don't want to continue doing something that's broken. So just be aware that change will happen. Change is always, the motivating reason behind change is to make things better. We're always making sure that we're working here for you. So on that note of feedback, feedback is really, really important. There are lots of different avenues for you to give us feedback. And when I say us, I mean individual instructors or staff members, a particular course as a whole, so web or iOS or CS or labs, whatever part of the program you might be in, or just Lambda in general. So you're going to submit daily. It's not daily for part-time, it's every other day. You're going to be submitting forms along with your work, where if you have feedback on something, you can share it. You'll also have you'll have a weekly feedback form after you complete those bi-weekly assessments, those sprint challenges. At the end of larger units, you'll have an opportunity to share feedback. When students leave the school, they give exit interviews, and we even have a Slack bot that allows an anonymous feedback channel that you can leave feedback in at any time if anything comes up. So there are lots of different avenues to leave feedback. Any feedback, in particular the anonymous feedback that you leave for us, you might be thinking, okay, if I submit anonymous feedback, who's going to read it? When are they going to read it? That feedback gets sent immediately into a Slack channel where myself and other members of Lambda leadership read it right away. You send it, we see it right away. And this is something that there are groups of people reviewing, discussing, and then acting upon. We take your feedback really seriously. So please make sure that if you observe something that, hey, this is something that other people need to be aware of, please share that feedback with us. And as appropriate, we do in the announcements from time to time, we try to, obviously, depending on the situation, there may or may not be details we can share. If it's something personal, but we try to share updates on, hey, this is some general feedback we've received, and this is how we're addressing it to keep you in the loop as well. You will not ever be punished or kicked out or discriminated against for leaving feedback. Again, feedback is super, super important. If I, as an instructor, never got feedback on how I was doing, it would be really hard to do my job. So I need feedback. As a school, we need feedback. We love feedback. We welcome feedback. So please don't ever be afraid. And again, even if what you're leaving feedback on is a sensitive topic, there are ways to leave feedback both anonymously and non-anonymously. We really encourage you not to leave it anonymously if you can, just because more often than not, we actually want to follow up with the person who left the feedback. We might have questions about some details of the situation. We might have some follow-ups and things we want to let you know what's being done about it. And we're limited if you're leaving feedback anonymously. But that option is there if that's something that you want to use. But overall, I think one of the things that has really struck me about Lambda is the culture. This is probably one of the most positive schools I've ever worked in. Everybody here, and if you think about it, it makes sense, right? Everybody here signed up. You went out of your way to sign up to be here. This isn't just you came here because you had to. You came here because somebody told you you have to go to school. You took the time to apply and put in work before you even got here. And you're highly motivated to succeed. And you have this whole group of people around you thinking and working the exact same way. So I've seen people that, maybe they're having a bad day, a project stressing them out. One of the awesome things about this culture, I think, is if you're willing to share those feedback, those thoughts. We have this really cool culture where other people, students, staff, are really quick to lift other people up. And in the interest of keeping that, because I think that's one of the things that makes Lambda a really unique place, make sure that you are mindful of, giving us feedback and giving us feedback in appropriate channels. All right. Let me jump over to Slack for a minute and make sure I didn't miss anything. Any word on the stipend? I have not heard any word on the stipend. Eric has asked, how many months is the course? So the entire part-time program is 18 months. That's broken up into 4 units or about 8 months of your track. So web, iOS, or data science, followed by a couple of months of labs. I believe it's, a couple of months of labs, a couple of months of computer science. I believe 4 months of labs, 4 months of computer science, and then your months of job search at the end. Okay. And there are a few because of breaks. So we have a week in the summer for July 4th, a week in November for Thanksgiving, and 2 weeks in winter around Christmas and New Year's. So there are 4 weeks off throughout the year. So those stretch things out a little bit more too. Have I always worked in education or similar roles? Yes. So I've worked in computer science education for, I don't know, the past several years. And so, teaching different levels, different types of courses. Yep. Do breaks wrap around between years? I'm not sure I understand the question, Chris. If you happen to, depending on, I'd have to look at the calendar with this start date. If you're here for 2 summers, you would get a summer break in 2020 and 2021. Josh is asking, will having no degree hold me back from getting a job? In these technical fields, it is something that employers are becoming more and more open to. Several years ago, I would have said, yes, that's going to hold you back. But even really big name companies, that's no longer something that they're stipulating. It's really more of, can you show us that you have the skills? And a degree is one way that people might get their foot in the door, get that first interview, like, hey, I have this degree. It's likely I might have the skills. And so a company would move forward with the interview process, but there's other ways to show that too. If you get jobs before the 18 months, can you still attend classes? Yes, and you are encouraged to. Patience, there is not any word of the stipend yet. How many cohorts has Lambda had? That is hard to answer because between all the different tracks, what I know is that we're up to, so this is Web 17 part-time. We're up to, in full-time, I think Web 27. And then I'm not sure the numbers on the other tracks. So several. All right, I'm gonna hold off on questions. If you have questions that you want to ask, drop them into Slido. I'll jump back over to Slido in a bit, but I want to keep moving forward so that we get through all of the content. All right, so we talked a little bit about the standards that Lambda holds itself to. Now I want to talk a little bit about the standards that we hold you to. So the student guide has full details. Please make sure that you refer to the student guide for complete information on the code of conduct. Any changes the student guide is a living document that changes as any changes are made. But this is just an overview of some of the expectations that we have for you as students. So number one, this is super important. We expect students to be actively participating. That means you're here, your camera is on, you're speaking up, sharing in meetings, engaging with your instructors, with your team leads, working together in teams well with other students. In development is not an individual job. You do not get to go and sit at a desk and talk to no one for the entire day. These are team jobs. You will have team goals, team projects. So it is super important to make sure that you are working on those team skills. Okay. Next, completing all coursework. The best way to get better at coding is more coding. Copying and pasting solutions that you find online is not going to help you get better. So if you want to make life more difficult for yourself in the long run, you can go look for answers in other places. But again, remember that to get the job, it's not just a matter of checking off boxes and getting through Lambda. You have to demonstrate that you have these skills to employers in an interview. So to do that, you have to practice them. To practice, we have lots of great activities set up throughout the course to do that. But practice, lots of reps. I think a lot of programming and development is really similar to, what was it? There's a quote that I really like from George Paglia that's something along the lines of like problem solving is really similar to swimming, right? How many people here can swim? All right, at least a few people. I know at least a few people. And so if you try to think back to the very first time you ever got into a pool or a lake or the ocean. How did you feel? You probably felt like you were drowning. And that's okay, right? Or maybe you don't know how to swim. And so that feeling is something that's very easy to recall. Well, how do you get better at swimming? For those of you who learned how to swim, how did you do that? Did you watch videos of other people swimming? No. Did you read books about swimming? Probably not. Did you just watch an expert talk about swimming? No, none of these things. I mean, yeah, you might learn something. You might get some good ideas on how to get started. But at the end of the day, you just have to jump in and do it, right? That's how you learn. And so all the skills that we teach here at Lambda are really, really similar. You have to jump in and do them. Really important to complete the coursework. Another big thing, asking for help. You will hear instructors all the time begging students, ask for help, ask questions. We are all here to help you. This is a safe space. Nobody is going to judge you for asking a question, but we can only help you if you let us know. We might not just give you the answer. We might direct you towards the answer, ask some probing questions. But we are going to help you move down the path to your answer, okay? Asking questions, super important. Again, integrity. So when it comes to coding, yes. Are you going to use online resources? Yes. Are you going to have to look things up from time to time? Yes. Nobody memorizes every single function or syntax rule for a programming language. However, looking up solutions is not okay. This is not going to help you in the long run. This is not going to help you work towards your rewards. And so your instructors will demonstrate more over the coming weeks exactly, okay, where is that line? What is something that I can Google? What is something that I can't Google? And that would even be a good question if you're not sure, ask. Would it be okay if I Googled this? What should I Google, all right? But yeah, like Catherine said, it's really just gonna be, you're gonna be cheating yourself if you are not going through this program with integrity. And along with that, plagiarism is really serious. If you are caught copying code from staff or other students or submitting work that is not their own, so if you're copying code from another website, a member of our student success team will evaluate that situation, and depending on the circumstances, you may be withdrawn. So don't put in weeks or months of work and then throw it all away by plagiarizing. Remember that if you're stuck on something, you always have that option to flex. It's so much better to just take a little bit of extra time and go back through something than to throw hours and hours and days and weeks and months of work away, right? We also have expectations when it comes to respect. So the culture, the atmosphere here, it's really important that we maintain an environment based on respect. So students and staff, we have lots of diversity here, which is awesome. So be mindful of the things you say, especially as we're a remote school. Remember that things like sarcasm don't translate as well via text. So just be mindful. And again, once you type something, it is there forever. It is the internet. So keep things like politics confined to, hey, there's a Slack channel for it. That's where people want to talk. They've signed up to talk about politics. But other places, be mindful and maybe stay away from some sensitive topics. Professionalism, we're going to dive into professionalism in a bit, but punctuality, accountability, communication, professionalism is super important. Lambda has a no harassment policy. This is a learning environment. We want to make sure that we're creating an environment of mutual trust. There should be no intimidation, no oppression, no exploitation. Both students and staff should be able to work and learn in a safe, stimulating atmosphere. So what exactly does this mean for you? We have a zero tolerance policy for harassment, whether that's verbal harassment, physical conduct, things that you're doing on video, any type of action that is intended to threaten or intimidate others, which could include but is not limited to the following: comments that are offensive or unwelcome regarding a person's nationality, origin, race, color, religion, gender, sexual orientation, pregnancy, sexual identity, marital status, age, body disability, or appearance, including epithets, slurs, and negative stereotyping. Not okay, all right? So make sure that you are not judging others. You are not making these types of inappropriate comments. These similarly would not be tolerated at the workplace. These types of comments at work will get you fired. These types of comments at Lambda School will get you fired from Lambda School. Don't do it. Nonverbal harassment additionally could include distribution, display, or discussion of any written graphic materials that includes, ridicules, insults, belittles, or shows hostility, aversion, or disrespect toward an individual or group because of national origin, race, color, religion, age, gender, sexual orientation, pregnancy, appearance, disability, sexual identity, marital, or other protected status. Yeah, I would include what Violet's saying, gender identity as well, okay? Again, so don't say things that could be considered harassment. Don't post materials that other people have produced. It's not an excuse that I didn't write it. I didn't draw it, I didn't whatever. If you're sharing it, you are responsible for the materials that you post. All right? So harassment, don't do it. Communication is really, really important. This is actually one of the biggest things that employers are looking for in employees. Technical skills are obviously important. They can't start off and train employees from square one, but a lot of employers, when asked, will actually rank communication as a bigger factor over technical skills. So make sure that in different situations, whatever communication expectations have been set up for a group, that you are following them and being mindful of them. Any violations of this code of conduct, again, full details in the student guide, I'll link to that after this session, may result in either deferral, so you could be deferred back to a different cohort, or removal from the program. If you're removed from the program, your income share agreement or tuition refund will be prorated as described in the ISA section of the user manual. If you think there is something that is preventing you from being successful, communicate with your team lead or instructor. So again, this is where if you feel like others are violating the code of conduct, please always feel like you have the ability to let us know via different feedback mechanisms. Okay. And so I said that being a professional was important. I want to dive a little bit more into what that means. So everything in the code of conduct is very, these are kind of the more black and white issues, like definitely do this, definitely don't do that. But when it comes to being a professional, what do you guys think of in general? When somebody says the word professional, what are some words that come to mind? All right, proper, mastery, discipline, ethical, respectful, suit and tie, okay, I think these are a lot of the same things that I think about too, right? So let's go through some of the expectations of being professional. So these are lack of professionalism may or may not get you kicked out of Lambda school, but it will definitely impact your ability to get a job. So this is something, again, that you have the opportunity to practice over the next several weeks and months. So if you look at some of these things and you're like, I don't know if that really describes me, it may not describe you yet, but it's something that all of us can work towards. So a professional, I think a professional is somebody that has high ethical standards, displays integrity, excellence. They're respectful of others with good time management, dedication, leadership. These are the types of traits that we like to see our students show. So, a professional attitude. When it comes to problems, and this is a really hard thing for a lot of people, including people who would be considered professionals. What are some professional ways to handle a problem? Whether it's a problem you created, a problem somebody else created, both could be either. Communication is so important, right? So making sure that how you communicate, you're not just becoming angry, you're careful about how you're describing the problem, you're not immediately trying to blame other people, you're not focused on things that you can't change, right? So you're aware of your emotions, aware of other people's emotions, you take ownership of your mistake. People have a lot of respect for individuals that do that. You're supportive of teammates, whether it's helping to fix a mistake or if they do something really awesome, let them know. I don't think there's enough positive communication when it comes to praising people for going above and beyond. So it's really easy to do that. But think about the last time somebody went out of their way to commend you on a good job. Think about how good that made you feel. And think about how easy it was for that person to do that, right? So that's something that's really easy that we can do in our teams, being thankful, and being open to constructive feedback. Constructive feedback is hard to take, but in the long run, it's going to be super useful. So how do we act professionally in an online environment? Communication, just like it was mentioned in the code of conduct, be really mindful of your communication. If you're communicating through written words, people can't see you in person, they can't see your facial expressions, they can't hear your tone. It can be easy to misinterpret things. So be careful of what you write. Also, if somebody posts something that doesn't quite make sense to you, give them, try, maybe, think about, okay, is it possible that they could have meant something else and I'm misinterpreting this? Asking following up questions can be a good way to, maybe diffuse something before it blows up into a bigger situation. So asking for clarification, like Sarah Marie said, ask, don't judge. If you receive a message from another student, from an instructor that's confusing or contradictory or upsetting, please, please, please ask. Ask for clarification. Don't be defensive or passive aggressive or angry, but just clearly ask, use facts, state problems, and propose solutions. Another thing that we haven't really talked about, but that is really important. I know a lot of people have already done this. So looking through Slack as messages scroll by, one of the expectations that we have for our students is that you have a professional looking profile photo in Slack. And you can also update Zoom with a photo as well. The guidelines for a photo, like what makes a professional photo, we should be able to see you. It doesn't have to be fancy though. You don't have to go hire a photographer. The photo that I have is my Slack profile picture right now. I waited until the sunlight, there was a sunny day, so there was good lighting, and my sister, we went outside and took a picture against her apartment building. That's the background. So it's not so it's just a cell phone picture against a relatively neutral background. So if you don't have professional headshots, that's okay. Just get a friend or family member to take a quick snap and make sure that you've updated that, okay? So if that's not something you have done, that can be a good thing to work on over the weekend. In addition to a professional image, that also includes, just being mindful of the personal information you share, both on Slack, Lambda Slack, and on other social media as well. On Lambda Slack, we expect that you are not using curse words, that you're using proper grammar, that you're not talking about personal biases, prejudices, etc. So if it's something that would get you fired at work that you wouldn't say at work, don't do that at Lambda either. And please keep gossip out of our channels. Again, this is a really positive place. It's one of the things that I love most about this school. So let's do everything that we can to keep it that way. Is violating the ethics policy to say, David, I think be careful. Be careful. So yeah, I think it's fine to say, oh, you have a nice image, you have a nice picture. That's all fine. Yeah, just be careful. Social media, the double-edged sword that is social media. So social media can be really, really beneficial. We can use social media there's lots of people I know that have actually gotten jobs through social media, following and engaging intelligently and respectfully with other professionals. But you want to always think before you post, right? If you post something that's offensive and your future boss sees it and it's offensive to them, well, maybe that's going to be the reason you don't get that job, okay? So screenshots are forever. Be mindful. Even if it's not something that you're posting in Lambda Slack, it's still things that potentially other students could see, future employers could see. So it's not that you can't have social media. So, and our careers team and careers coaches go into really good detail. They have some really good guidelines for social media. So there's really constructive ways to use it, but just be mindful. Time management. All right, this is important. So just like if you're meeting somebody in person, the expectation is that you are on time. Same thing if you have a virtual meeting with somebody here, whether it's an instructor, a team lead, or another student. Make sure that you have, do whatever you need to do to make sure you are on time. So set alarms, create calendar events, reminders, whatever it is. Because think about, how do you feel if you have an appointment with somebody and they're late or they just don't show? What kind of perception does that give? Kind of what does it make it seem like they are thinking or feeling? Makes them, it seems like they're disrespectful, right? So we don't want others to think that we're disrespectful. We don't want other people to think that we're not serious, unreliable, that we don't care. Because these, even like your peers, other students, they might be just you all might just be students now, but these could be your future coworkers, your future bosses. These could be somebody that maybe a few years down the line, they have an opening at their company, and maybe you apply to that opening. If they remember you as the person that was never on time, they are probably less likely to recommend you for that opening. However, if they remember you as the person that was always, came prepared on time to all our meetings, was super active, participated, contributed, yeah, the kind of impression you give is really important. All right. And when it comes to being a leader, I know some people, everyone's leadership goals are different. But if this is something that down the line you're thinking, I would really like to work towards a type of leadership role, some things that you can start doing and start practicing now include being open and listening to ideas. So leaders do not just sit up on top of their throne and mandate things for others to do. They need to listen and take the best of everything that they hear, provide constructive feedback, volunteer to take on more responsibility, and really there's lots of different ways to do it, but really going above and beyond. Okay. So all of these things, all of these characteristics of professionals, these are the things that can really set you apart from other people that might be applying for the same jobs. So if you look at this list again, so again, we're not expecting everyone to have all these things today. Some of these things, yeah, you should start, if you're not doing them, you should start doing them, like, have a professional image and make sure that, communication, this is something we work towards, right? Social media, this is something that you can work towards building to paint the picture that you want to paint, and whatnot. So all good things to be mindful of. All right, let's take a few minutes to answer some Slido questions. Then we'll take one more break. Then we'll dive into our last few topics. All right, so upvote and ask questions if you have not done so already. I'm going to start from the top from what I see. How long does this PT class run? From March plus 18 months. So what is that, to September of 2021-ish? Books for computer science. I do have a list of books. I'm going to leave this question here so that I remember to go get it, but I will drop a link at the end of class. How many hiring partners do you have, and do they change? There's a list of hiring partners on the website. Again, I'm going to leave this question here so that I remember to go find the link after class, and I will share that. How do you check your 5th day? Submit a ticket to front desk, and somebody can get back to you on 5th day questions. You will know your groups and your TLs on Monday, so be on the lookout for a Slack channel invite from your TL. If you fail the first unit, can you request help? Yes. So we actually have extra support hours that students who are struggling with can and are highly encouraged to make use of. So some extra one-on-one support. Is there a faster way to swap between multiple Slack accounts? There is. I don't have multiple Slack accounts set up on this computer. Let me see if I can, if we look at, so I'm not sure how different it looks on Windows, but what you can do is from that main page, if you find sign into another workspace and you are part of another Slack organization, that's where you can sign up there. And then there's an option similarly to switch then between them. Again, I can't show it very well because I only have one workspace on this computer, but then you can switch between them over here. Okay. Do you have to be good at math to succeed in web dev? Where did that question go? It floated all the way down. Or maybe I clicked on the yes. No, you do not have to be good at math. I'm not saying that there's no math. There's a little math, but there's no calculus or anything crazy. Final question, would Lambdas count as a school when trying to get an internship that requires you to be studying for a degree? I think for a lot of, we definitely have plenty of students that have gotten internships. So they finished Lambda and then got an internship, which may or may not have led to a full-time job. So I think a lot of companies are really open to that. Yeah, like you said in the question, it's going to depend probably on the company, but I think it's always worth a shot at applying. If a company says, we want somebody who's studying to apply for our internships, you're studying whatever content they want. So yeah, apply and see what happens is what I would recommend. All right, so let's go ahead and take one more 5-minute break, and then we have a couple of more topics to cover before we wrap up for this evening. All right, so I will be back in 5 minutes. Okay, so let's go ahead and we do not need to continue to another timer. Let's go ahead and keep going with the last couple of topics. So I want to talk a little bit about some things that you can do to be successful here at Lambda. So a few different examples are engagement opportunities. So when you leave Lambda, we don't just want you to walk away with technical knowledge. We really also want you to walk away with, and lots of students do walk away with, connections both to the school, but also to the people here at Lambda. These connections are going to help you not only get through these next few months as you're working through all these new skills, all these new challenges, but they're going to help you years down the road when you get your first job, when you get your second job, when you get promoted, when you're a manager someday and you're looking to hire people, right? So these connections are super valuable. And there's a couple of different ways that you can go about forming them. We talked a little bit the other day about the location channels. So the first of every month, the first Friday of every month, for example, today, Lambda School encourages local meetups. So students in the same city, students in the same state. So please make sure that you take a look for either your city, a major city close by, or your state to see what meetups might be coming up. Those meetups might be scheduled tonight. They might sometimes be scheduled on the Saturday, things like that. But you can also just look for local developer meetups in your area as well. So looking up, if you're in web, looking up JavaScript meetups, React meetups, things like that. If you're in iOS, looking up iOS Swift meetups. There are meetups both inside and outside of Lambda that can be really valuable. Yeah, I know I saw something about the Seattle meetup. They were trying to come up with a virtual solution. I don't know if that was successful or not. Yeah, with coronavirus, those may or may not be happening right now. So it depends, but definitely look into that. So meeting people in person, is it a little scary sometimes? Yes, but super valuable. And even if you're not able to go to some of those local meetups, Slack channels are awesome as well. You can interact both with the people in your cohort because you'll have a lot of things in common. You're going through the same things. But look for some of those different interest channels in as well too, right? So we've got gardens and yards. If you're a garden person, I'm not a garden person. I had a house for a while and I used to like trees and I do not like trees anymore because I had to rake too many leaves. But gardening, right? Or if you're somebody who's really into health and fitness, we've got biohacking. We've got educational channels like mathematics, books. Again, this is just a few of the channels that are out there. And if you have an interest and you can't find that channel, you can create that channel. So don't feel limited just to what channels there are. And so it's a way to find the channels is on your sidebar. If you go to channels and you go click on the name channels, you can search. So you can scroll through there are a lot. But does anybody have an idea of something to search for? Airsoft. I can look for airsoft. Give me one or two more. Dogs. I know there's going to be something for dogs. Okay, so if we look for airsoft, I don't know if there will be anything. Okay, no matches for that. But if I look for dogs, we've got pets. Okay, so I can go to the pets channel. You can even preview these channels before committing to them. But in pets, we just have a lot of pictures of people sharing their pets and things that they're doing with their pets. And it's pretty adorable, right? So if that's a channel you're interested in, join. If you don't care about pets, then you don't have to join. Easy. All right. Jump back to the bottom. Yeah, so we've got lots of other ideas up here too. Video games, Chuck Norris, Dungeons and Dragons, Lakers, web dev, exactly. I do want to point out one thing about the hired channel, and this applies to some of the other larger channels as well. So the hired channel, why can't I find it? Hired. The hired channel is a super awesome channel that I recommend you join if you have not. However, disclaimer, so take a second, look at how many people are in the hired channel. 4,681. In large channels, you want to be mindful of the rules, the policies of that channel before posting. So for example, the hired channel, you can post in the hired channel when you are hired. That is the rule. So the hired channel, its specific purpose is for students to share their stories once they are hired. If only when you're hired. In these larger channels, if you are not paying attention to the guidelines and the expectations, that can lead to negative responses. So Sarah Marie asked, can you congratulate someone? Absolutely. The way to do that is in a thread. So if you see that somebody has been hired in that channel, just add your congratulations in a thread. But yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. In the smaller channels, that's not such a big deal. Or in channels like random is a big channel, but the point is just for anybody to post random things. Okay. So just be mindful, observe, take a look at what people are posting, who is posting. The only big one that I can think of is hired. So I know from time to, and the reason I say that is from time to time, we have had students post general questions in hired, which can frustrate others who are, hoping and waiting for those success stories. Okay. Awesome. So Slack channels, a great way to engage with people here. And then if you're just looking for more general info on the school or other external ways to engage, we have, and I'll drop these links at the end of class, but we have a blog where we post updates on the company, lambdaschool.com/the-commons. And you can also keep up with us on Twitter as well. All right. So engagement opportunities, super important. One of the other huge things to be mindful of that are really easy to neglect, and too many people neglect them, are your needs as a human being, right? So as a person, you have physical needs, mental health needs, physical health needs, monetary needs. We have needs as people. So I want to talk about a few things, both resources and things to be mindful of. All right. So first thing, modern health. How many people have found information on modern health and checked into that? Karen, while people are answering, Karen asked, is there a way to scroll directly to newest messages? Yeah, so you should, if you pop into a channel with a lot of messages, there should be at the bottom a little gray bar with a subtle link about jumping to newest messages. I'll see if I can find an example later maybe. But yeah, we have a few people that have checked into that. You've maybe gotten some resources on this. And the reason that we have this, so when it comes to mental health is not a binary true or false thing where you either always have mental health needs or you never have mental health needs. It's really more of a spectrum. And we're going to be at different places on that spectrum at different points in the day, at different points in the week, in the month, in our life. And there are some places, further on the left-hand side where we can do different things, self-care, we can rely on friends and family, and we can address those needs that way. But it's totally okay if you're feeling like you're more on the right-hand side of that spectrum. And it's really important to reach out and get professional help when you need it. And so one of the things that we do here at Lambda is we have a partnership with Modern Health that provides a number of different types of support during your time here as a student. So they have lots of different like self-paced modules that you can explore on their app that talk about just different different ways to optimize, work performance, ways to minimize stress and anxiety, tips for healthy lifestyles, financial goals, relationships, mindfulness, meditation, life challenges, diversity, inclusion. They have lots of different resources, both written resources, videos, audio clips, etc. So definitely check it out, see what's there, if nothing else. This is diving. I think it's more interesting for you to actually dive into those topics. You can actually take the first time when you log into their application a well-being assessment, and they'll actually recommend, like, hey, based on the feedback that you've given us right now, here are some areas in our toolkit that you might want to check out first. If you would like to talk to somebody, though, they also provide professional support, so you can get matched to a coach who can help talk you through and help you both set and hold you accountable to some different goals as well. So again, lots and lots of resources there. It sounds like people have been receiving the email. So if you haven't seen this yet, check your inbox for an email from Modern Health and join using that email. So if you haven't received the email, just be patient. They have a mobile app as well for both Android and iOS. Instructions. So after you download the app, join, use the email you have on file with Lambda School, register the company name as Lambda, and then you can continue from there. I will share this document after class. We have a list of frequently asked questions. It would be really boring and time consuming for me to read this, so I'm not going to, but just know we have some facts. If you go through this and you have additional questions, you can send them to front desk. Other needs, aside from, so mental health, super important. Modern Health is a great resource. You might have your own resources and your own systems in place. If so, and you like what you're doing, keep doing what you're doing, but just know that that is available to you while you're at Lambda School. What other needs do we as human beings have? Sleep. Sleep is so important. Psychological needs. We need to eat food. We have physical needs. We need to get up and move around, right? So Lambda School is going to take a lot of time and energy. And a lot of you are working either part-time or full-time outside of this. So your time and energy is limited. And so you're going to have to really be intentional and mindful about scheduling time, prioritizing to make sure you are fulfilling all of your needs. So let's talk about sleep. We had lots of people point out sleep is really important. Sleep is not only important because we feel more rested, the bags under our eyes don't look as bad if we get a good night's sleep, but sleep is essential to learning. If you are not sleeping, you are not going to be making the most of this learning experience. So if you're not sleeping, there are things in the brain that are going to make it more difficult for you to retain information long term. So make sure that you are, again, I really recommend scheduling things out. If you're not somebody that's scheduled a lot in the past, it's going to help you so much if you do so. Same thing goes with food. So just like you shouldn't skip sleep to work on homework because 2 months down the road, you're not going to remember what you were doing. Again, your brain also needs food for it to reach its full cognitive potential. So please make sure, and I bet you could probably find some meal prep channels or healthy eating channels that have some good tips and tricks. But you know, finding a schedule and a system for you where you're eating the appropriate amount of calories, the appropriate amount of meals, so that way you can have the energy to learn. Super important, right? Security, right? So that kind of goes along with, you know, we need money to feel secure so that we can purchase things like shelter. And in our shelter, you know, have things like heating, water, electricity, etc. If you don't have this type of security, right, that's going to make your time here at Lambda stressful. It's stressful. Just diving into something new and difficult is stressful in and of itself. So if you're stressing about school and also rent and these bills, Lambda is going to be really, really hard. So it's really important to make sure that before you dive into this journey, that you've taken a look at your situation. If you're potentially changing or pausing jobs to go to Lambda, take a look at how that impacts your finances. Make sure that you're going to, in the short term, have the security you need to be successful at Lambda. Okay. Additionally, in addition to all those physiological needs, we need as people to make sure that we're also taking time to maintain our relationships, right? So again, just while Lambda should not come at the expense of food or sleep, it should also not come at the expense of your friends and your family. So make sure, just like we tell you to communicate with us, communicate with the people outside of your Lambda circle as well. Let them know, be very clear. This is what I'm doing. This is my goal. This is why I'm doing it. This is when I will be available. This is when I will not be available, right? And so I know that there's channels, for example, if I know part-time can be hard for students with young children, right? You might have been working all day and now you're at home. Kids are trying to go to bed. They want to see you. So, you know, again, scheduling, coming up with a system that works so that you are intentionally maintaining time for all this is really important to your happiness and your success here at Lambda, right? And then again, esteem, self-esteem. Our esteem is really, really important. And it's going to take some hits when we learn new things and make mistakes. Yeah, that can be a little bit rough. But at the end of the day, it's really important to reach out, and because you're not the only one that feels that way. Has anybody heard the term imposter syndrome? So if you don't experience imposter syndrome at some point at Lambda, then you've got to tell me your secret. Because even us who have been in the industry, even your instructors, professional developers who have years and years of experience, they feel imposter syndrome, which is more or less the feeling of, I'm not good enough for this job, this opportunity, this task, I can't do it, right? So it's something that everybody feels. The important thing is to talk about it. You're usually not the only person who feels that way, okay? And yeah, it's super common in programming, especially because I think with tech and programming, things change so quickly. So you spend some time ramping up on something, you're like, all right, I feel really confident, I know this thing really well. And then a new language or framework or whatever it is comes in and replaces it. And it's back to ground zero. Okay, I know nothing. But the more you learn to learn, the more you practice learning new things, the easier it gets. All right, so at the end of the day, I just want everyone to keep in mind that it's really important that you are taking care of all of your needs, not just your Lambda learning needs, your mental health needs, your physical needs, your need for food, sleep, your relationships. Please make sure that you're paying attention to all of these things to be successful here, okay? very quickly, because we're running out of time, the last thing that I want to talk about are just a few strategies for how you can make sure that you are taking care of all of these needs. So really quickly, time management. I'm going to drop a thread. Time management, apps, tricks, and tips. So if you have any specific apps that you use, either desktop apps, mobile apps, strategies, we'll go over a couple, but I would love for people to just drop those in that thread, and we can kind of brainstorm and brain dump. But as your time becomes more limited, got to make sure that you're maximizing it. Some important pieces of time management, prioritizing things. There are going to be days where you're not going to be able to finish. Please make sure that your responses go in the thread. I see people posting useful information, but it's not in the thread. Please drop it in the thread, guys. Prioritizing. So there's going to be days where you can't do all the things that you have on your to-do list. So prioritizing what is most urgent, what is not. Very, very important. You can do that in a few different ways. To-do lists, whether they're digital to-do lists, written down, post-it notes, really helpful. Scheduling tasks, also a good idea. So for example, I can pop over to my calendar. We can take a look at that. So I have, this is what I use for my both schedule. I like Google Calendar because it's on my desktop, it's on my phone. I schedule blocks of time where, feel free to just schedule times where, okay, I need to focus time. I need homework time. I need, you can see I have dinner scheduled so that people don't try to book me for meetings all day without any breaks, right? Time that you're not available to do things, family time. Make sure that you are scheduling. Scheduling is super important. If you're a Google person, Google Calendar also has, along with it, Google Tasks, which is good for super simple to-do lists. These are not very detailed, but I have things that I can write down and check off, okay? That's one system. It's not the only system, right? There's gonna be a lot of other ideas in the thread. So scheduling out tasks, even tasks that you might not have scheduled before, really important. Minimizing distractions. We want to, there are times where you're gonna have lots of things going on around you, family, work, life, right? So it could be tangible physical distractions, like you might need to find a place in the house that you can go and close the door. You might need to find, you know, a different place outside the house where people can't bother you while you're working on assignments. You might need to turn off digital distractions. So for example, if I didn't have Do Not Disturb turned on during our sessions, I would have all kinds of notifications going off the screen and it would be really distracting. So I have that turned on. Doing those little things so that you can focus when you need to, super important, right? And all of this can help you to overcome procrastination. So scheduling, prioritizing, a few different tricks. I know some people mention this. One would be, has anybody heard of Pomodoro? And there's apps for this too, if this is a technique that you like. But essentially, it's just dividing up your time into intervals of focus and breaks. And I've seen it, the intervals vary slightly, but more or less you're taking, you know, roughly maybe a 25 minutes of work and then a 5-minute break, something like that. Yeah. Similarly, just generally time boxing activities, so that you're not working on something indefinitely. So for example, if you have, what's a good example? So I might time box, I'm gonna clean the house. I'm gonna clean the house for an hour. And I could clean the house for 10 hours, but really in terms of all the other things I have to do today, I can only dedicate that much time. It doesn't have to be perfect. So the concept there is things don't have to be perfect, they just need to be good enough, okay? And so doing all of those things, okay, being mindful of your time management, Really, really important to being successful. So we don't have time to do it right now, but definitely take a look at the thread. We have lots of different ideas up there for time management. So if it's not something that you spend a lot of time consciously doing, something to really consider trying to start doing as you start classes, all right? And the very last thing, and then I'll pop over to Slido for one more Q&A session, is just as you're going through Lambda, it's really, really important and can be really impactful to have the right mindset, okay? So a couple of different types of mindsets that you might have heard about: growth versus fixed mindset. Remember that when you encounter something new, you might not get it the first time. That does not mean you will never get it. So do not look at these technical topics, concepts, and skills with a fixed mindset, thinking that if I don't pass the first time, I'm never going to pass, because that's not true. A lot of the things at Lambda just require more reps, more practice. So really think about that. Really try to, if you're somebody that does lean, and I think everyone is growth sometimes and fixed mind sometimes. Nobody is only one or the other. But if you're somebody that maybe in the past has looked at these types of topics with a fixed mindset, really challenge yourself to start approaching things with more of a growth mindset, thinking about, okay, maybe I can't do it yet. It's not that I can't do it, it's just that I can't do it yet. And we're gonna keep working at it. And you have lots of people here to help you do that. All right, questions. I'm gonna do 3 minutes of questions, and then I wanna be mindful of time and wrap up. So the first couple were questions I'm gonna post links to after class. Regarding Flex, will we just be put in new cohorts with other Flex students, or are we put in the next cohort that started behind us? For Flex, you'll be put in the next cohort that started behind you. It's a good question. When you graduate, do you get a certificate, or what do you get as proof that you're a Lambda graduate? You get an endorsement, which I'd have to confirm. Let me dig up. I think there's details in the student guide on the specifics, but let me dig those up. Do you have to be good? We already answered the math question. If you don't have a social media account, would you recommend creating one for the future? This is a really good question for your career coaches when you start having sessions with them. They would definitely recommend a LinkedIn account. So if that's not something you have, that's something they will help you set up and help you build over the coming weeks. It can be helpful, but it's not necessary. It's not necessary. What do other people who don't speak English code in their native language? That's a good question. I think coding languages are really tailored towards English speakers. So I think that just makes it an extra challenge. Is tonight going to be the last time we see you? Yes, this is, well, for now. So next week you will be starting new classes with your track instructors. I do not lead any of those classes. The classes that I lead are in the computer science portion of the program, which for this group of students are many, many months away. So I might see you, but it will be a long time from now. What else? On project 3, it says that links for past project presentations will be dropped in Slack. Will we see them? Jake was able to get me a link to some past projects. I will get those. I also have some links. There were some demos, project demos that students did today that links. I have some of the links. I'm waiting on a couple, but I will get you more links to projects. On the 5th day, are we only completing projects the entire time? Depends on the week. Some 5th days you'll be completing projects. Other days you'll be completing your sprint challenge. That alternates. And one more, how easy is it once you've gotten a job in one CS field to transition to another CS field? I think the hardest thing is the first job. And after that, that's kind of, it's, as long as you can show that, hey, I have a technical background and I know how to learn new technical skills, that's the biggest thing. Because really what you learn in school is going to become outdated. It's just a matter of when. So really the important thing is, can you show that you can do problem solving? Can you show that you're flexible with different types of technical content? Okay. So with that, after class tonight, so that covers all of our Lambda launch orientation material. I know it was a lot, but you will always have this training kit page to refer back to if you have questions. You also have the student guide that has all the information on policies, procedures, and whatnot as well. The project for this evening, if we take a look at Lambda Launch Module 3, I've been talking too long, I can't even talk anymore. It are some videos about, we have some students who have already completed Lambda, so a few different student stories. I will drop the links here that were mentioned so that you can watch those. And again, thinking a little bit more about your why, super helpful. A good thing to come back to later, all right? So the goal should be to work on this, watch some of these videos, complete all of that before class on Monday. If we look at the calendar, let me pull up your calendar, not my calendar. So if we look at Monday, Monday will be, that's not the right cohort. Yeah, it is. Monday will be, I'm not on the right day. There we go. Monday will be your team introductions. Then you'll have some time to dive into training kit for your track. So the first guided project next week with your instructors will be on Tuesday. And then the schedule will follow the same schedule that we've been following this week. So training kit prep time to watch the pre-class videos, guided project, and then the next day, your independent project time. All right. So that assignment, Karen, I think if you get that done before class on Monday, that is a good goal. Yes, links are coming. I know I've promised many links. I'll put all those together, Tyler, and get those sent out. But it has been such a pleasure to meet and chat with everyone here. Best of luck as you start your classes next week. And I can't wait to see everyone here posting in the Hire channel. So have a good rest of your evening, a good weekend. If you have any questions over the weekend, I'll still be keeping an eye on this channel, so feel free to drop your questions here. But best of luck as you start this journey. Talk to you later.